Well, good morning, Chania and friends, and welcome to this week's edition of Patio Ponderings. I'm Pastor Sue, and I'm so glad you decided to join me. I'm sitting out front of our church amidst the beautiful flower beds that we have. We are getting ready to celebrate our 150th anniversary, and we've been spiffing up the place, and it's really lovely out here on this beautiful morning. We've had a lot of hot, humid weather, but today there's a nice breeze and it's still a little cool and it feels great. It is an interesting juxtaposition then that we have in the midst of this celebration of our faith community's life, been walking through 6 weeks of villains in the Bible and talking about the evildoers that we encounter. And so just the stories that we covered real briefly, we talked about the serpent in the Garden of Eden. We talked about Pharaoh, King David, Herod, the devil, and the crowd. And as we went through these 6 stories, I saw some themes emerge. And that's what I kind of want to talk about today, because I think it's really interesting that there were elements of each of these stories that seem to pop up again and again and again, in different ways perhaps, but still some commonalities that I think are worth pondering. So first, in a lot of these stories, there's an element of fear or anxiety and or insecurity that plays a part in the story, either on behalf of the evildoer or the one who is called to resist the evil. We have a sense that once we have power, we must do everything necessary, including evil, to hang on to that power. And we often fear, in resisting evil, we fear losing comfort and experience a great deal of risk. So that's a common theme that runs through everything. The second thing that I think we learned without a shadow of the doubt is that power brings corruption. The two just seem to go hand in hand, and we are familiar perhaps with that saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we've seen this throughout the stories as well, that these characters in their power do that which is downright reprehensible and unspeakable. We think of Pharaoh and Herod and the massacres of children, not to mention slavery. We think of even the good King David, who has a great reputation, still experiences corruption. He is the one now who stays home while the soldiers go out to fight the battle. He is the one who simply expects he can have his neighbor's wife and kill his neighbor. So that is a second theme, that power comes with corruption. And finally, in each of these stories, we were posed with a question. It's a choice. Are we going to choose the ways of humans and human power, or are we going to choose the ways of God and God's power? So through all of this then, if we have common themes around sin and evil, how do we as people of faith then approach those themes perhaps differently? So how are we tending to our own fears and insecurities that might hold us back from fully trusting in God? How are we understanding our leaders' fears and insecurities, whether those are, corporate leaders or government leaders or any other organizational leaders? How are we looking at those things and tending to them in a way that is faithful? And the same is true when we think about how we view power in general. How, as people of faith, do we think about how we assign power to people? should we be thinking as from a place of faith that perhaps collaborative leadership might be a better way than assigning people power? Perhaps that's part of why it seems that Christian values sometimes align with the values of democracy and having shared leadership and shared power, is that corruption can maybe be tampered and lessened, thereby lessening evil. And finally, then, how do we, in all of this, keep making the choice for God's ways and God's power over human powers? If we tend to our fears and insecurities, if we tend to power structures from a place of faith, then how does that tend to support our choice for God and God's ways over our own? Lots to think about with these common themes, and they've been kind of swirling around in my mind all week. So as always, I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you were able to hear all these stories, which story captured your attention? How did you see these themes come up again and again? Are there other themes that you saw pop up that I didn't mention? And how do we as people of faith work within those commonalities of the villains and the evil that's done in the world? As always, I am looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Enjoy this day, and we will see you on Sunday. Bye.